Hi, welcome to SBR Forum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak, and this is it. This is our official picks preview of Super Bowl 48 with our two featured handicappers from this year, Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com and Troy West from AllPlaysWin.com. Both these guys have done a ton of videos with us this year, giving us a lot of great information and, of course, winning picks. Both of them were over 56% against the spread in the NFL with us, both with a sample size of over 50 games, and that is just a very impressive record in the NFL. Joe Duffy and Troy West, thanks for being back with us one final time.
Thanks a lot,
Thank you, folks.
All right, awesome years, guys, and I'm going to give you a well-deserved 10-second promo before we get into our analysis of Super Bowl 48. Troy West, let's start with you. 32-24 against spread in the NFL in our videos. Awesome record at your site. Take a victory lap for 10 seconds.
Hey, thanks, Pete. Yeah, 7-1 in the NFL playoffs. 24/7 customer service. You don't get that at many handicapping sites. I encourage people to come check out allplayswin.com.
And Joe Duffy, in the beginning of the year, you predicted you'd have one of your best years handicapping football ever, and you nailed it. 56% against the spread in our videos. Joe Duffy, take a 10-second victory lap yourself.
Yeah, no, been doing this publicly since June 1st, 1988. Keep in mind, we do basketball, underdogs, and small favorites in baseball at OffshoreInsiders.com. Bet with us in baseball, folks.
Okay, awesome, guys. Let's get into it. Super Bowl 48, Seattle, Denver. Denver right now is a 2 or 2.5 point favorite, and the total is 47 or 47.5. And before we get to your official picks, let's just run down a bunch of factors that everyone is discussing here. Let's start off with the most obvious one. Just give your opinions on them for about 10 seconds. Peyton Manning leading the awesome Denver offense, facing Seattle's awesome defense. The question is, has Peyton Manning seen a defense like this year? And can we expect roughly the same performance from him? An efficient game, well managed, and highly productive. Or is Seattle going to be able to stop him in some meaningful way that no other team has been able to do this year? Joe Duffy, what do you think?
Well, I think the key is going to be if Seattle can keep him off of the field, and they certainly have that ability with one of the best read option quarterbacks in the NFL, and Marshawn Lynch, a guy that can move the chains. No, this will definitely not be one of Peyton Manning's best efforts statistically, but he doesn't necessarily have to have one of his best efforts to pull this out. But no, he's facing a great defense and a great ball control offense that can keep him off of the field, much like San Diego did 3 times.
Troy West from AllPlaysWin.com, what do you think? Do you think we can expect roughly the same thing from Manning, or do you think that Seattle's defense is going to change this game fundamentally for him?
I think it's absolutely going to change its game. I don't think that these wide receivers have seen a secondary quite like this. You got to understand the physicality that comes with the Cam Chancellors, the Earl Thomases, the Richard Shermans. These guys have not seen a secondary like this. I don't think you compare the Chargers or any of the defense, not even the Kansas City Chiefs. The Denver Broncos have not seen a defense like this. And Pete, I just think that how cool is it really going to be for these guys? The Wes Welkers, the Eric Deckers, the Thomases, they have not seen the physicality of a defense like the Seattle Seahawks.
What's your read on Manning's ability at the moment? Obviously, Manning, brilliant game manager, makes phenomenal decisions at the line of scrimmage, but his arm strength may be waning a little bit. He was never that mobile. Maybe he's a little bit less mobile now than he used to be. Do you think Manning's on a decline, and that's going to factor in here?
I don't really want to say he's on a decline, but I do think his mobility is going to have an issue in this game, Pete. You look at the quarterbacks the Seahawks have faced throughout the year. They've shut down guys like Eli Manning. They've shut down guys like Drew Brees. They do really well when they're able to rush forward, not have to worry about the quarterback picking up 5 or 6 on a scramble. So, and Seattle's pass rush is phenomenal. It's going to be really interesting to see. I know Peyton Manning gets the ball out quick, but how quick against these receivers and this pass rush of Seattle will be really interesting to see.
And Joe Duffy, you think Manning's physical skills are in a little bit of a decline here, and do you think that's going to be a factor or not?
No, absolutely, positively not. I agree with everything Troy said, but you got to realize the other side. Seattle has not seen an offense like Denver's. Denver's, at least statistically, is the greatest offense in history. No, his skills are not in a decline, and even if you want to argue they are, much like his boss, John Elway physically at the end of his career wasn't maybe at his peak, but he got to be a lot smarter. He made much better decisions, and I think the experience of Manning, when you look at his recent playoff performance compared to the first 10, 15 games of his career in the playoffs, he keeps getting better and better with age. So it's not just about the physical skills, but much like, as I said, his boss, John Elway, shows, it's also about using the experience and making the right decisions.
All right, Troy West, what do you think about that? Do you think that Seattle hasn't really been tested the way they'll be tested here?
I mean, if you don't think they've been tested, I don't know what you would call the New Orleans Saints, the San Francisco 49ers. They've won at Carolina. They've beaten some good passing offenses. I think, I'm not saying the Broncos aren't better than the Saints, but the Saints have a pretty darn good passing offense. Held the Saints to 15 points in 2 games. That's just a small taste of how good this defense really is. So I would say that Seattle has been tested throughout the year with good passing attacks. They face some darn good teams all season long.
Right, so then your sense is that Seattle's defense is going to be more of a challenge for Denver's offense than Denver's offense is going to be for Seattle's defense.
I really do, Pete. If you look at even the 49ers receiving core, you get a big physical guy like Michael Crabtree. You get a guy like Anquan Bolden. You get a tight end like Vernon Davis. And you look at how they were shut down. I think Seattle's going to have some fun with little tiny guys like Wes Welker and Eric Decker and Demaryius Thomas. I don't think that receiving core is as big as or physical as what you saw with the 49ers 3 times this year. 3 times they were shut down. So I think Seattle's might have some fun with these smaller receivers of Denver.
All right, Joe Duffy, I assume you disagree with that. I assume you think that Denver's offense will challenge Seattle as much as Seattle's defense will challenge Denver's offense.
Yeah, no, I didn't disagree with his assessment. I just was saying that you don't underestimate how good Denver's offense is. But I do agree, when I use the single most important statistics are yards per rush, yards per pass, and yards per play relative to what their opponents normally get or allow, depending on what we're talking about on offense or defense. And Seattle allows just 5.4 yards per pass to teams normally getting 6.6. Now, that's holding them to 1.2 yards per pass below their normal average, which this late in the year is as good as I've ever seen. But again, when you talk about the greatest quarterbacks ever, Peyton Manning, he might be number 1. And certainly when it comes to his regular season, and now it looks like he's doing it in the postseason. So yeah, it is. It's going to be one of the all-time great matchups of a great quarterback against a great defense, but don't underestimate how good Peyton Manning is. And look what he did to the genius Bill Belichick last week. Bill Belichick, supposedly the greatest defensive mind of all time. He didn't look like it last week, or by the time people see this, maybe 2 weeks ago, but in the conference championship games, he was sensational.